You know, AutoZone is great at helping their customers.
True. From free battery charging to loan a tool, they help people get in the zone.
I was thinking, what if they also helped us send 4 listeners to the ESPYs?
Greeny, that's exactly what they're doing. It's the Mike and Mike experience at the ESPYs presented by AutoZone. Folks just have to listen and watch us from April 20th through May 15th. All the details are at espnradio.com/Mike's SB contest.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's called The Zone. AutoZone's going to help you get there.
National League Central rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Golic. Thanks for checking out the podcast. Here's what went on today. We talked NBA playoffs taking shape. Still a lot of movement out west. Jaws on Mariota. We talked to Jordan Spieth, their Masters winner. What's the definition of an MVP? And the Yankees ignoring A-Rod to avoid paying him? Questions to be answered.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Ryan Ruocco in for Greeny alongside Golic here on Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio, on your TV, on ESPN2. Thanks for having me back, Golic.
Well, I mean, I didn't watch you back.
Yeah.
But the other 7, 8, 9 people couldn't do it. So.
It was like 5.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I went a little overboard there, about 5. No, I appreciate you coming back, yeah.
Yeah, even after we bonded in Myrtle Beach, it's still going to be like
we
this,
did.
Right?
Just everybody just take a look at Ruocco's selfie we just took together, and I'll tell you how excited I am to be here.
That's true.
Him.
Anytime you want to get a feel for the relationship, you just go to Rye Rooks on Instagram, and you'll see exactly what's going on in our relationship. But it's going to be a fun show, Golic. We get to talk to Jordan Spieth at 7:10 Eastern.
So many questions for him.
Yeah.
So many questions. None have to do with golf, but I have so many questions.
That's right.
As we found out, he gets that green jacket for a year. What are you doing with that thing?
Right. Are you going to wear it out
everywhere?
Like you were? Yeah.
Everywhere.
You should.
Why would you not?
Especially since then you have to put it back after a year in the clubhouse.
Better get it dry clean.
That's right. So what is he going to do with it? We'll find out. Plenty of other good stuff to come.
Mm-hmm.
And Golic, this is a couple days before the NBA playoffs.
Right.
And last year, it was such an epic first round. So we're all jazzed for that. But we have an exciting final 2 days of the regular season, too.
Yeah, we do in some games. In other games, I wouldn't buy a ticket.
Right.
This is that time when if you're deciding whether to go to one of these last games or not, make sure you know the situation.
Yeah.
Make sure you know what's going on. Make sure you know if one team needs a win, if both teams needs a win, or how it's working before you say, yeah, I think I'm going to go watch that game, and then get there and have no clue what's going on or why the game is going the way it's going. But whenever – I don't care what sport it is, whether it's 162 in baseball, it's 16 in football, it's 82 in basketball. No matter what the game and a number of games, when you can get down to the last game of that season and say, this is riding on it, this is riding on it, this is riding on it, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting. One of the great moves I thought the NFL made was making those division games the last couple of weeks of the season.
It's made a big difference.
Makes a huge difference. So what's riding on it, and to make that 82nd game in the case of basketball here, what makes it exciting, what makes it watchable, and we have more than a few things, not even whether you're in or out of the playoffs, but positioning and seed as well, which people may not care as much about. But still, to some teams, it's important.
Yeah, especially, when you get into the Western Conference playoffs, and these matchups are going to be so tight.
Mm-hmm.
There really isn't a huge separation between many of the teams.
Right.
Home court can make a big difference. And go. So here's the scenarios as it stands right now. The 8 seeds in both conferences are up for grabs.
Right.
Pacers have a half-game lead on the Nets. Nets have one final game against Orlando. Pacers play tonight against Washington, and then the final night of the season, a game on ESPN against Memphis. In the West, New Orleans and the Thunder are both tied for the 8th seed after they both won last night.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Davis had 24, 11, 5, and 6 blocks. Russell Westbrook had 36, 11, and 7.
Yeah.
So both stars came to play. Now, the Thunder do not have the tiebreaker, but they do have the easier final match.
Yes, they do.
They get to go ahead and play Minnesota.
Who the Pelicans played last night and dispatched them.
Right, yeah. Exactly. In Minnesota, it's advantageous to lose games right now.
Right.
And meanwhile, the Pelicans have to go and play the Spurs.
And you would normally say that, and you would say, well, it's the Spurs It's the end of the season. It's Greg Popovich. It could be game 30, let alone game 82. He may just sit guys, and tell them not even come to the arena, stay at home, go to a spa, and I'm saying that and laughing because the guy's got 5 trophies. So, you know what, Greg, you can do whatever you want because it's effective, even though I know some people, hate the way he sits people. But that's what you would expect here. But not so fast, my friends. The West, what's going on there? The Spurs, with 1 game left, mind you, can be the 2nd seed, the 3rd seed, the 5th seed, or the 6th seed. So, I mean, there's a bit riding on it. What's interesting, quite honestly, if they were to get the 2nd seed, they would end up playing Dallas in the first round, the team that plays them so well. Mm-hmm. So you even wonder about them. Do they want that?
Right.
I think they're at the point they have such, veterans, they don't care. They're just going to line up and play. But who knows? Who knows what the thought process is, because some teams look for positioning. So I guess my point is, I don't see this being a game where the Spurs are just kind of floating through it unless they really don't want to be number 2.
Right, exactly. For anybody who's thinking, well, the Pelicans and Thunder are both going to win their final games because they're playing for something and no one else. No, that's not the case at all.
And let's make this perfectly clear. If the Thunder, I don't even know how to explain it if the Thunder lose this game. Minnesota has 16 wins. 16, and they're playing for the draft pick. They are awful right now.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City is playing for the playoffs, unless they're not. So could you imagine? I know they say on any day anything can happen.
No.
But if there is one thing as close to me in my mind and taking to the bank, again, unless Oklahoma City, and I don't know their mindset of management, because players are going to go on the court to win.
Yeah.
If for some reason they didn't want to make it into the playoffs, for a draft pick reason, but I wouldn't get that right now. But we've certainly seen it happen before. I can't think of a surer bet tomorrow night than Oklahoma City beating Minnesota. Could you?
No. Because let's be honest. Russell Westbrook himself isn't going to let them lose that game.
It's not going to happen. No. I mean, I can't fathom it. And I know it's sports. I played sports. Wacky things happen. But that would be one of the most unbelievable things I would witness if that were to happen. While that Pelican San Antonio game, what a monster game, because, again, the Pelicans own the tiebreaker there.
Right. So if the Pelicans can win that game,
they're in no matter what.
Winning, they're in. They play that game at home. But the Spurs have a lot going on in that game as well. Here is Anthony Davis talking about how he's going to handle the final game for the Pelicans.
Do the same thing I've been doing, the past 81 games. It's another game to me, and I'm going to do the same thing I do prior to the game and leading up to the game. I'm going to do the same exact thing. Not going to change anything. Get to the arena at the same time, eat at the same time, sleep at the same time.
And how about Russell Westbrook and how he's looking at this final contest?
All we got to do is go out and play our game. Go out and take care of our business, and if they win, then we in, and if we lose, we out. So we just got to go out and take care of our game, and that's it.
Listen, I would expect them both to do their thing. Russell Westbrook's going to be your scoring champ this year unless James Harden. We'll get into the numbers, but suffice it to say, it is pretty funny that Westbrook's going to be the scoring champ, and Westbrook's going to hoist up, probably 25 to 40 shots to make sure they win that game. Anthony Davis is going to score, rebound, and block shots. But that's a matchup I can't wait to watch. Those two. Again, the Oklahoma City game, I don't want to just hand it to them, but I'm going to just hand it to them.
Right, that's fair.
I mean, I don't know how you can't. You would expect the best out of those guys.
Don't you think that, Adam Silver's very progressive. I think it's one of the things we like about this commissioner. How about he decides whoever doesn't go to the playoffs, if the Pelicans go, they can take Westbrook for the series. If the Thunder go, they can take Anthony Davis. Wouldn't that be a huge win for us basketball fans?
Yeah.
I think so.
Kind of a wacky way to go about your business.
Yeah. The Warriors, I'm not sure, would be too happy about that.
No, I don't think they would be happy about that, because that's exactly right. Those two teams are playing to see who's going to play Golden State.
Right.
And then, you sit there. For the most part, obviously Golden State's number one, and they're not going to have a say in who they're playing because those two teams will battle it out. But I would think they would rather face New Orleans
I would think so,
than Russell
too.
Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is, the triple-double machine he is, the ways he can attack you. on the court. Now, Anthony Davis is going to be, in everybody's eyes, a multiple MVP of this league at some point of what he can do scoring and certainly blocking shots and rebounds. But I would say if you asked Golden State in a private moment, they would never admit to it publicly. No one's going to say, oh, I'd rather play them because I don't want to play them. Not when you're the number 1 seed. You don't care who you play. But in a private moment, I think they would say, I'd rather play New Orleans.
Here was Steph Curry talking about the situations coming down to the wire in this season.
You got to know the landscape of what's going on, especially in the playoffs, to kind of get ready. So I know a lot can happen in these next 2 games, and they're obviously big games for pretty much everybody in that 1 through 9 spot, just to finish out the year strong and how the standings end up. But it doesn't matter really who we play, because I think they're both strong opponents that we have to take seriously and be ready for them whenever that happens this weekend.
They are. They're strong in their own ways. We see what Anthony Davis does and obviously see what Russell Westbrook does and the amount of shots he takes. And he got, backing from a pretty big legend that we'll get into about that. But again, just to throw some numbers at you, it sounds confusing, but it's amazing. And like I said, coming to the end of the season, I think it's great that we have this for the fact that the Clippers have clinched home court in the first round already. But they can still end up number 2, number 3, or number 5, and it gets confusing. 5, wait, how are they home court? Because Portland is locked in at 4. But if Clippers
based
are 5, based on division, blah, blah. So just believe us. They could be 2, 3, or 5. The Spurs, as I mentioned, can still be 2, 3, 5, or 6. Rockets can be 2, 3, 5, or 6, and the Grizzlies can only be 5 or 6. So there's still some things to play for there, and that's what I love when you can get your sport to have that many meaningful games. Again, this is positioning; they're already in. It depends. I guess it's your definition of meaning, how meaningful it is if you're 2 or you're 3. But I know I know for me personally, I'd love to see San Antonio 2 and Dallas 7. And that matchup, because I love watching those 2 teams go against one another.
Last year, nobody expected them to go 7.
That's exactly right.
And they did.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Russell Westbrook, he shoots 43 shots the other night, Golic. And we played the sound yesterday, and
right.
And he obviously didn't care what people thought.
Doesn't care what anybody thinks.
Right. No, he did not. And he shouldn't have. But in case he did, he got a vote of confidence from another guy who knows how to take shots, but also happens to be one of the NBA's all-time greats, Kobe Bryant. He put out a tweet with a meme. You know what memes are? Right?
I do know what memes are, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I do. Took me a while. I didn't know right away.
But you're on the meme train.
I understand. I've never produced one.
Yeah.
But I know what they are.
You know what? Honestly, where do you produce
I don't know.
memes? Like, people come up with these amazing.
They're hilarious. It's so cool that how they do it.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't understand where they're manufactured either.
And you should. You're in that. I'm in the meme world. You're 19 years old.
Yeah, right.
You're right in that movement there.
It's true. I'm part of the meme movement.
Yeah.
Yet if you told me go create a meme, I would have no idea how to.
Right.
I do consume them though, and I love consuming this one from Kobe Bryant, who tweeted out yesterday with the hashtag #StopIt a meme of Tina Fey rolling her eyes, and in bold print, 54, 9, and 8 assists, 49% from the field, but all media cares about is the 43 field goal attempts. And then Kobe went on to tweet a variety of different things. If you're watching on ESPN2, you see the delightful meme that Kobe tweeted out. But then he also tweeted out, what all-time great went 19 for 43 in a Game 3 NBA Finals loss? Look it up. Only rings matter by any means, and that was Michael Jordan.
Yeah, right.
And then he tweeted, people will always find a way to critique. Only way to shut up critics is to win. That's the challenge myself and MJ accepted. Can't critique rings.
Well, listen, I mean, this is coming from a guy who will hoist up a shot from anywhere, but everybody knows it, and it's accepted, and he's one of the all-time greats. He brings up Jordan, same thing. Jordan would be free to shoot any time he wanted to. And has certainly had multiple 40 and 50-plus games, taking a lot of shots. There are the way some teams approach it was let Jordan do his thing. We'll try and stop everybody else and try and get the win that way. So I get what Kobe is saying, and I get in this situation, especially. I wonder if it was the same scenario where they end up losing, and Kevin Durant is playing as well. Because that's where this all started.
Yeah.
It was Westbrook taking the shots and Kevin Durant and then losing and Kevin Durant not taking as many shots and everybody saying, what are you doing? Kevin Durant is the man. Give him more shots. Stop taking so many shots. You're being selfish. So that's where this all came from. But Kevin Durant's not in the court. What are the other options? What are the other? Remember, this is a team right now, gang, that's 9th, not even in the playoffs.
Right.
Okay?
And
so
without Serge Ibaka, too.
Exactly right. So it's not like we're talking about one of the top seeds. We're talking about the 9th seed right now, a chance to not be in the playoffs. So where else are they going? So Russell Westbrook has absolutely just put this team on his back and triple-doubled them to potentially being right in the playoffs.
It's just a buzz. It's a buzzword, field goal attempts, and anytime you get over a certain amount, it's almost like you don't look at the percentage. Think about it from team field goal attempts, right? If your team shoots 100 shots in a game and you shoot 49%, you're thrilled.
Yes, you are.
I mean, so I don't care how many shots an individual player takes. If he hits 49% of them, I'm going to be happy with that.
Right.
And I do feel like, Golic, for whatever reason, Russell, he does have a little bit of the Kobe in him, right? That attacking just to
he
take
absolutely
over.
does. Sure.
And for whatever reason, over the last couple of years, I feel like Kobe's been dealt a lot of disrespect from, the general media as we've seen efficiency become more and more a buzzword within the NBA community. It's almost like you forget what he's accomplished and that he's at the end of his career.
Yeah, he's at the end, so he's not going to be as efficient now, especially with the injuries as he was. Russell Westbrook obviously, has a lot of prime years left in him. But I think that's all this is, a carryover from when he would get ripped for taking most of the shots, even when Durant was on the floor. But right now, I couldn't agree more with Kobe. Where are you going?
Yeah.
You're only in this position of possibly making the playoffs because of what he's doing. With Durant out and Ibaka out, I couldn't agree more. So I didn't have a problem with him taking 43 shots. Certainly Russell didn't when he said, I don't give a dang what anybody has to say. And he's helping to carry this team. So even if they were to make it, we always said, boy, if they make it to the playoffs, and Ibaka comes back, and Kevin Durant comes back, and everything, what? This 8th seed could be unbelievable. Well, it's not happening.
Right.
You know what? Kevin Durant's not walking through those doors.
Yeah, you don't know what or when you may or may not get Ibaka.
So I don't think the expectation is very high, even if they were to make the playoffs. But, the players are on the court trying to do their best, and Russell Westbrook is doing what he has to do for his team. So I have zero problem with it.
I talked about yesterday, Golic, how Scott Brooks says he doesn't have a dim switch when it comes to Russell Westbrook's game. And one thing I thought was great about the cut we played yesterday, and Westbrook talking about, I don't give a damn about this, and not worrying about the criticism in regard to his shots. He also said, I compete harder than anybody in this league, night in, night out. Not as hard as.
Right.
And I heard Max Kellerman pointing that out yesterday. I thought he was on the money.
Yeah.
I agree with him about that, too. Usually guys, to be politically correct, they'll say, nobody does anything harder than me, or I'm just I work just as hard. He's telling you he competes harder than anybody in the league. He might be right about that.
Nah, I'm not going down that road.
You don't think
about that. So nobody else competes hard.
They compete hard.
So nobody else competes that hard. See, I don't like that. I don't like that. This guy works harder than anybody. This guy works. Everybody works hard. You don't get to that level. Now, some, don't get me wrong, some work harder than others.
Yeah.
But to sit there and say that Russell Westbrook competes harder than anybody out there, not a chance on God's green earth I'm saying that.
Really?
No.
You don't think you could see it in his game
I
the way
see
he's playing?
He competes unbelievably hard, but I'm going to sit there and say he competes harder than anybody harder than anybody. Line them all up.
Yeah.
He competes harder than them all.
Well, there might be.
I'm not saying
Well, there could be some scrappy guys who compete as hard, but maybe their games just aren't as obvious. But if you look at stars, a lot of stars, they take some plays off. LeBron James doesn't compete as hard night in, night out as Russell Westbrook does. There are definitely games where he kind of, he meanders his way through and then hits a switch and decides to turn it on. I don't know. I feel like I understand what you're saying. In general, it's like, come on, a lot of people try, man. But he might have a point about that.
Yeah, I don't agree. Not at all.
But
nope.
I think
now does somebody, do you have to pinpoint somebody to say they compete the hardest of anybody? That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
If you were giving out that superlative, then he might be the guy who at least comes off the page.
Yeah, I am one of those guys. I can't stand when I hear it. I can't stand when I hear someone say I work harder than anybody. Do you? You know that for a fact.
Yeah.
You work as hard as you can work. Okay? That's how hard you work. You don't know what others are doing to work. So you can say, I know I work as hard as anybody else works, and I work extremely hard, but you can say that? So you can say that and know that you work harder than the other people? I can't stand that. I think it's ridiculous.
The best of Mike and Mike.
As we've gotten closer to the draft, and look, now we're 2 weeks away.
We're getting there.
We're really getting close to the NFL draft. Feels like they're starting to build some momentum for Jameis Winston not actually being the number one pick.
Yeah.
Take a listen to Ron Jaworski on SportsCenter yesterday explaining why he thinks he may not end up going number one.
I like Marcus Mariota as the number one quarterback to go to Tampa Bay. And I'd say this for this reason. Their offensive line is not very good in Tampa. You plug Jameis Winston into that situation, I think he has a difficult time. He's not a quick twitch guy. I believe Tampa Bay needs a mobile quarterback. And I also like the fact that Dirk Cutter, the offense coordinator, has a background in the spread offense, that up-tempo style scheme. So when you look at how everything fits together, the tape that I've studied on Marcus Mariota, I see him as a good fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's not to discount Jameis Winston, who I believe will also be an outstanding quarterback. But right now, and this is a process, it's a long process that you constantly update. Right now, I've got Marcus Mariota just a shade ahead of Jameis Winston.
Well, you know, when I start a line like I really respect Jaws and his understanding of the game,
but
you know what's coming.
Yeah,
I could not disagree more. Now, Dirk Cutter, knowing spread offenses, listen, I get that. That's we can see that he certainly had, obviously time in pro style offenses as well, but he knows spread. So I get that. He could coach either of them. I will give Jaws that without question. He could coach more of an open offense, movement offense, and he could coach a pro-style offense as well. You completely lose me on the offensive line argument. Are you drafting Marcus Mariota or Jameis Winston for next year? Is that what you're drafting them for? Or are you drafting them for the next decade? Next year or the next decade? So are you telling me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have a bad offensive line for the next decade? I mean, that's basically what you're saying. Or unless you're just being short-sighted to next year. Let's be honest. Who cares what they do next year? Okay? If you see something good out of them that you can build off out of them, like a Teddy Bridgewater, right? Team didn't go to the playoffs, but you certainly saw some good out of Teddy Bridgewater, didn't you? You said, you know what? Like this kid. Like what he's doing. Derek Carr out in Oakland. And they didn't go to the playoffs.
But you saw some positive signs.
Kid.
Yeah.
Like what he's doing. Do we expect Tampa Bay to be a playoff team next year with a rookie quarterback starting? Probably not. So wins or losses are great. I get it. But it'll be a rookie quarterback, and if the line isn't up to snuff right now, I get that. But you're not drafting for next year. I mean, that's an area that Tampa Bay will then look to improve as well, the offensive line.
I don't know that you should ever be considering your current personnel when you're talking about picking that high in the draft. It's just like when I heard, I host in New York.
Yeah.
And I have a show on ESPN New York 98.7 FM when the Jets traded for Brandon Marshall. A lot of Jets fans were saying, well, this means they shouldn't draft Amari Cooper. Why? I mean, Amari Cooper could be your stud receiver for a decade. If that's the guy who you want, that's the guy who you take. In the case of a quarterback, you're hoping for more than a decade. You're hoping he's your guy for 15 years.
Go out to Oakland. They're just signing Crabtree.
Yeah.
Michael Crabtree. Do you think in Oakland now that the fans or people still wouldn't want Amari Cooper or Kevin White?
Of course.
I mean, unless I don't know if in them signing Michael Crabtree, they're saying, okay, now our wide receiver position is set. I don't know if they're saying that. But back to this, you're not drafting your quarterback for the offensive line you have next year. Jameis Winston, this groundswell that you said, the only reason there's a groundswell is because there's time.
Yeah.
The more time you have, the more time we start thinking, the more time we start overthinking this thing. If you don't know by now what direction you're going, if you've had these guys in for their private workouts, and Mariota's going to have a private workout today with San Diego, so you get your private workout with them, that should be the final touch, the final piece of the puzzle on what you're going to do. If you all of a sudden say to me, well, looking at if you're telling me, well, I'm looking at the tape and I'm seeing again those interceptions haven't changed. Okay? Since January, those interceptions were there. And we were all studying them then, and we all knew about the interceptions then. So if anybody is saying now, well, I went back and I looked at the interceptions. Did you? Oh, I saw the interceptions in January, and guess what? They're the exact same interceptions in January to now. So I don't, this is what happens. We have so much time on our hands to talk ourselves into anything we want or out of anything we want. Jameis Winston, and I said this way back when, and there's no pro day, no broom, no blocking dummy thrown at you, no shorts and T-shirt workout for a top pick. I'm not saying a shorts and T-shirt workout can't help a guy who's a mid-rounder or you don't really know about. That can open the eyes of scouts to go back and look at tape on those guys. For top picks, to me, it doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't mean a thing. You want to get them to the chalkboard? That can mean something. Obviously, your background check on them. But football, we've seen it. We know they're football. Jameis Winston, to me, is the number one pick, and there's nothing changing it now unless something red flags it big off the field that I need to see on the field anymore. I've seen every interception. I've seen every pass he's thrown. I've seen every pass Marcus Mariota's thrown. I've seen him run and do his thing in Oregon and how successful he was. There's nothing to me that's changed my mind from that. So I really think a lot of this is time. What else changes? A kid gets popped for marijuana, at the combine. Okay, that could change some things. But for these top picks, unless you get hurt, unless you get busted doing something, I don't see a whole lot changing you because you have all the tape to look at. If you're starting to base things off shorts and a T-shirt, I don't know. For a top pick, I don't get it. Jameis Winston, to me, is the number one pick in the draft. He's the best quarterback in this draft. He's the next decade quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think that's changed at all. It can groundswell wherever it wants. And to me, it's not ground swelling in Tampa Bay. He's going to be the top pick.
Mike and Mike.
Jordan Spieth, 21-year-old Masters champion, joining us now on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Jordan, it's Ryan Ruocco and Mike Golic. First of all, congratulations on your victory.
Thank you very much, guys. Glad to be joining the show.
Well, I tell you what, Jordan, I guess first and foremost, let's just go back to the moment. I thought it was just so cool how you were able to share it with your family there. I mean, I think you got everybody with the hug with Grandpa. That was just amazing. But just, again, you put your hands on your knees. You're the Masters champ. Just for everybody out there, what did that mean to you? What did it feel like?
It was a big exhale. I mean, it was a dream come true for me, and what it meant was not only with my family, but with our entire team and the incredible amount of hard work that they put in behind the scenes to give us an opportunity to be in that position and then see what we had. I mean, Michael and I, we were put in that position a year ago. I came on the show with you guys that Tuesday morning after and talked about a near miss, and every time I talked about it, it made me hungrier, and I finally got that opportunity again, and we learned from our mistakes and were able to close this one out. And so it was just a big exhale and knowing that we had the best team in the world that week, and it allowed our dream to come true.
Jordan, was there any moment in any of the 4 days where you felt like it was slipping a little bit?
Not really. On 16 on Sunday was about as close as I felt to, okay, we're almost at the finish line and we've got to maintain composure. I hit it over the green and Justin Rose had a good look at birdie. It was one of those moments where the two-shot swing changes momentum, and I go from 4 up with 3 to play to 2 up with 2 to play. And I didn't hit a great chip. So I'm sitting with a tough putt, and he's got a look. Or if he makes it, it just adds to my putt. And that's about as nervous as I was, I think, the whole week. And his ball just barely dove shy of the hole. I thought he made it when he hit it. And then I stepped up to the 6-footer and hit arguably the best putt I've ever hit in my life to really seal the deal at that point and be able to kind of coast the last 2 holes. But
It was incredible. That was that 2-shot swing. And I'm going to make a confession to you, Jordan. I'm going to do it, and I hope you don't dislike me for it. It was a completely selfish move on my part as I was sitting there watching it. And the only way that this was going to be close is if you came back to the field a little bit, and that was a hole where it may have happened with the two-shot swing. I was hoping it happened.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. You wanted a tight finish, something a little more dramatic.
I did. Are we okay still if I felt that way?
We're okay. I'm doing just fine. Thank you, though.
You know what? Touche, my friend. Good point. So I love the mind aspect of sports. So the last round is getting ready to tee off, and you're 4 up. As opposed to going into a round where you're down a stroke or even or just the beginning of a tournament, talk about the mentality of being 4 up, you and your caddy talking about how you're going to approach that last round.
Sure, the expectations are higher, and when I say that, I'm not saying that I listen or watch what other people are saying. The expectation I put on myself is higher. I mean, I'm to have the target on my back. You know, I'm expected to win. Everybody else behind, and it almost frees them up. I've been in the position of chasing, and it's a lot easier to get started at that point.
Talking with Jordan Spieth, Masters champion, joining us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline now. Jordan, you are 19 under as you approach the final hole. Tiger Woods' record is 18 under. Are you thinking about it? Are you aware of it? How deeply concerned are you with having the record?
Well, I at the time I had no idea. I didn't even really know what I was at. I did no scoreboard watching. I told my caddy at the beginning of the day, in order to stay focused, we need to try and get to 20 under par, because we can't be caught if we shoot 4 under that day. And so that was the ultimate goal. And if we stay on that, then we're not going to be worried about anything else that's going on. And so coming down 18, I had a putt obviously to get to 19. I really truly wasn't aware that would have been to break the record. But obviously that would have been kind of cool. But it just added more to the parallel of the 97 Masters, just tying it, I guess. But it was really nice to walk up to that green and have the ability to hit a few putts to get it in instead of the pressure of trying to make one.
Really, really incredible, Jordan. I mean, I don't think I've seen a broadcast where almost each putt in the last few holes, there was something on it. I mean, there was some kind of, whether most birdies at some point. It was really incredible. For you, have you, and this is tough because it's so shortly removed from it, but one of the things going around on Twitter after you won was a couple of years ago, the picture of you with your Texas teammates, golf team teammates, to now Masters champion 2 years in a row in the last group. Have you been able to kind of let it sink in and just realize at 21 years old what you've done?
I really haven't. It hasn't really hit me. I don't know if it will for a little while. I think it'll be something that constantly does in certain ways. Right now, just very pleased and I'm exhausted from the week, but I'm really, really excited to join this elite fraternity and to carry kind of the special, not burden, but carry the weight that it has on me for this year. I mean, I'm expected, to act like Masters champion on and off the course for the next year, and I'm excited to get back to the tournament already.
I bet that as we talk about with athletes a lot, the safe haven is what they do for a living. So for you, that would be, I'm sure, in the tee box and on the fairways. I heard you talking when you're getting your green jacket about, and how your respect for the game and those that came before you and even to Bubba to learn from those guys as he's putting the green jacket on you. Even though they can tell you, can they prepare you for forgetting the golf part of it and the expectations, but just, I'm sure, the whirlwind that's been since you've won the Masters, which maybe you haven't been as accustomed to once you put that green jacket on?
No, I don't think you can be prepared necessarily. I mean, I've obviously now experienced the first part of it with we're in New York on a media tour, which is a lot of fun. But just the introduction that people are giving to saying that this year's Masters champion, I mean, that's always been a dream, just to hear those words come out and, be introduced right afterwards. But I don't think there's any way you can be prepared for this. It's such a unique experience. I think it differs from player to player, and I'm trying to enjoy it with friends and family, and we're having a great time with it.
You know, Jordan, I know you got to run, but we need to ask you, how often are you going to be rocking the green jacket out? Going to be rocking it often?
Somewhat. I like to kind of hang under the radar, so I won't have it on too often. But I'm going to really enjoy, hopefully, wearing it at sports games. And I've got my favorite teams, the Dallas teams and University of Texas teams. So maybe wear it to some of those games there and support the guys who I've grown up watching.
Good for you, Jordan. It was fantastic to watch. It really, really was. Congratulations and best of luck in the future. I have a feeling we'll be talking to you plenty more.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike and Ryan. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Jordan.
That's Jordan Spieth, the 2015 Masters champion, joining us on the Subway Fresh Take hotline. Went wire to wire to win the Masters. Protecting the lead is brought to you by Protection One. Bring the best defensive player to your home or business with Protection One. It's who Mike and Mike choose.
I love when he did say that was kind of their goal for the round. Get to 20 under.
Right.
If you get to 20 under, no one's catching us. And he got close. He got to 19 under and obviously gave one back on the last hole. But that's what I love, that mindset, because there's a mindset if you're up 4, if you're down 1, if you're down 4, how are you playing the course? And he was just incredible. I know the word being used a lot is efficient. You know what people are comparing it to? When Tiger did what he did in 97, how he blasted the course. And how going forward, sometimes the courses were, tigerized, kind of lengthened or whatever because of his power. Is the comparison was made that Tiger's win was more like a power pitcher and Jordan's win was more like, a Greg Maddux painting the corners type of a.
That's a good analogy, I think.
Kind of an efficient win. That was a word I've used I've heard some golf analysts use. Both getting the same results, but how do you like watching each of them? Now, Tiger's was won by way more strokes than Jordan did, but both unbelievably great tournaments for them. I just love his mindset.
Yeah.
I love the fact at that age he doesn't seem – because we've seen emotion out of Tiger, both good and bad. We've seen the roller coaster with him. Jordan, I mean, he's young, but when you're young, you think maybe you'd start to see some then. But, man, he is just – he's unflappable at this point.
And look, I would also think that it's harder to Jordan-proof a golf course with that kind of game than to Tiger-proof.
There's no way.
Right, you lengthen the course. That's how you try and make up for
nothing you do for efficient shots.
Right, exactly.
I loved his thought process of how not to, he said, I pick small targets that way. If I miss hit, it's a small miss hit. I thought it was fantastic. And he's so right about – so I heard him talking about Bubba and the other champions, and you want to learn from them and stuff. And he's got to be – he's right. There's no, as you're walking out the door, here's your winning the Masters pamphlet. Here's how you handle everything of flying off to do all the shows, going on the media tour. Oh, yeah, by the way, you got to play some golf again at some point. And when he said he looks forward to getting back to – I bet.
Yeah.
I bet he looks forward to the comfort of having a golf club in his hand again.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Guys, when you buy your clothes at DXL, you look good. But you feel like a rock star. So if you want to look and feel like you'll find all the brands you love, waist size 38 and up, all in one awesome store. DXL, you're looking good. Right now, select dress shirts are just $49.50 each when you buy 2 or more.
Plenty of hardware in the career of LeBron James, but he's not really being talked about for MVP this season. And J.R. Smith, he sort of has an issue with that goal. Let's take a listen to his teammate.
In actuality, if you really wanted to, you could give it to him every year. Numbers, what he does for teams. You can see 1 year removed from a team, and like Miami, and they probably won't even make the playoffs until a team hasn't made the playoffs since he left, and then also on a 52-win team. So, I don't think you can do that with anybody else on that's in our league right now. Not to knock anything from the other 2 guys, they have great years, career years for both of them, but if you want to be realistic about it, you can give it to them every time.
So, 2 things. LeBron fatigue, we know of that from Jordan fatigue.
Sure.
He could have won it more times, but there's just
Karl Malone steps in, gets a couple.
Let's get someone else in there when you could, if it was given to Jordan Moore, nobody would really bat an eye, right?
Yeah.
Just like everybody, look, even though we're talking about Steph Curry and Harden, everybody concedes LeBron James the best player in the game.
Right. I don't know if there's a GM in this league who, if they have, they have one player, they're taking someone other than LeBron James.
And quite honestly, that other player right now might be
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thought is the voters, and this is what Greeny and I always got into this debate. It's a debate. It's an opinion. If you and I both vote for the MVP award, I don't care what sport, it comes down to what your definition of the MVP is, right? You get your vote.
Right.
Your vote is not right or wrong, right? It's your opinion on who you think should be the MVP. People may disagree with it or agree with it. Just as then it's my definition. What's my definition of an MVP? That's what it comes down to. Every voter for an MVP, you may be given a sheet of paper that says this is kind of what we're looking for, but you're still going to think your way to justify your vote. And there are more than a few. We certainly know of one that would say, I got no LeBron James, fatigue here. He's the MVP.
Right. Jason Lloyd of the Akron Beacon Journal.
It's an Akron Beacon Journal.
Right. Which he himself goes on to say this isn't. At one point he says, my vote for James has nothing to do with working for his hometown paper. But he said, LeBron James, James Harden, Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis. Maybe I'm the only writer in the country who doesn't get swept up in the Curry-Harden debate and votes LeBron number one. That's fine. I'm ready for whatever scrutiny comes with it. I laid out a couple weeks ago why I believe James is still the MVP of this league, and I'm not wavering now. He lifted an entire franchise and region with his return. He took a team going on its third coach in as many years with the worst overall record the past 4 years, a dysfunctional locker room, and a hands-on owner, and eventually steadied it all. Not to mention Kyrie Irving's development playing alongside him. No other player in the league could have convinced Kevin Love to agree to a trade to Cleveland. No other player in the league could have pulled the Cavs from where they were to where they are. He is truly the league's most valuable player. Now, Golic, I can't, in my criteria, I can't give LeBron James MVP credit for what he does for a region. And I cannot give him credit for convincing players to come there. I have to be about what is happening on the floor when I'm evaluating the MVP.
Well, I mean, are you saying region or are you saying team? The team's in the region. I guess, again, it's your definition. Because
I feel like you're saying the economy of Cleveland, like helping that.
Yeah, which he has done. But you're right. I would agree with you there. My criteria wouldn't be, 4 more restaurants opened up and they're making millions more, though I'm sure Cleveland would go by that.
Right, I'm sure they're very happy for that.
And I get it. But I guess if you look at it, what is your definition of MVP? So let's look at Steph Curry, who's been absolute money this year. Their team has the best record in the NBA. He's the best player on that team. He's got a really nice supporting cast. There's no doubt about that. But he's been awesome for that team. Let's look at James Harden. James Harden has done it a lot of this year without Dwight Howard. And he has a team with a chance to be the number 2 seed. They can be 2, 3, 5, or 6. So they can be 2. They can be 6, but they can be 2.
Yep.
So he did a lot of that, putting the team on his back, where Steph Curry had a better supporting cast. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that. And the Rockets have had other injuries to their supplemental pieces as well, which the Warriors have been much more healthy, and they have a deeper team anyway.
Russell Westbrook, we want to give him a ton of credit for what he's done without Kevin Durant and then Serge Ibaka, who goes out as well. But it's a team teetering on the playoffs, so I think he loses a lot because they don't make the playoffs. I don't. Even if they make the playoffs, I don't think he's winning.
No, he's not anymore.
I think he would be coming in at least third, if not fourth, in the discussion. And then there is LeBron James. You do look. He came to Cleveland, and it was a team that's been horrifically bad, and he now has them as everybody's favorite to get out of the East and represent. So when you're looking at most valuable player, what do a lot of people do? They say, take that person off the team, and where would they be? Okay, take Russell Westbrook off the team. They wouldn't make the playoffs, and they may not make the playoffs right now. Take James Harden off that team. I mean, they're certainly in some trouble, correct?
Yeah, they may not, in the West, without Harden, with Howard's injuries, I don't think they are a playoff team, no doubt.
Steph Curry, take him off that team. I believe they're still a playoff team.
They are.
Right?
Yeah.
Certainly not going to threaten the West if they didn't have
They're not winning 65 games.
Right. They're not. And take LeBron off of Cleveland, they're not in the playoffs. I mean, they're one of the worst teams out there. So for his criteria, I get it, but it all depends on what your criteria is. That's again, I'm with you. I'm not on the economy and the region thing, but looking what you did for your team, and that's what a lot of people use. Take that guy off the team. What is the team?
And you know what? That argument can be made. The one thing I find interesting, with LeBron James MVP races over the last few years, his supporters would always throw the advanced stats in the face. His PER is that much higher.
Right.
His real plus-minus is that much higher. Well, this year, they're not. You know, he actually doesn't win those races against the candidates we're talking about. Steph Curry's is better. James Harden's is better. Even Russell Westbrook's is better. Anthony Davis is better. So some of the criteria that has helped him in the past,
right,
all of a sudden he doesn't have in his saddle anymore.
It's fair to use those when you're voting as well. I mean, and that's what I mean. I mean, you can use your criteria if you're a voter. I can use mine. You can disagree with it, but I'm a voter. I'm not. I'm just saying if I were, then I'm allowed to use the criteria I want to use to make my vote.
Yeah, LeBron, you can always make a case for. He's the best player in the league. This year, I give it to Harden or Curry.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Golic, Alex Rodriguez he's off to a pretty good start now.
Yes, he is.
For the Yankees. And last night, Yankees won their second straight. Dramatic win in Baltimore. Stephen Drew, a grand slam late in that game to help give them the win. But A-Rod, if you're wondering about him approaching Willie Mays and 660 on the all-time home run list, you're not going to find that in the Yankees team-issued upcoming milestone.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sent some waves throughout different media outlets right now, because if you were to look at the Yankees' upcoming milestone sheets, you'd have things like Carlos Beltran needs 3 hits to reach 1,000 in the American League. Stephen Drew needs 2 home runs to reach 100 career. Things as mild and mundane as Didi Gregorius needs 3 games to reach 200 for his career. But under Alex Rodriguez, it has his career runs, it has his career stolen bases as a Yankee. It does not have where he is on the career home run list.
And listen, I understand that. They don't want to pay what's he, 5 short? 5 short of Willie Mays?
I believe that is correct.
Is that where he is? When he gets that?
He is 5 short.
When he gets
that? 655.
When he gets that, we're talking, bonus,
supposed to get $6 million.
$6 million bonus for the next few, to get the next few home runs. The Yankees have come out and said they don't want to pay it. They said they're not going to pay it. And so by them saying that, I completely understand why they're not acknowledging it. Because if they were acknowledged it, that's A-Rod's people would just say, wait, you're acknowledging it.
Right.
So we got to give us the money. So I understand the Yankees not acknowledging it, but you know what it is? It's a waste of time. A-Rod's getting his money. Unless you find somewhere in that contract that says, that has it out for you, that you don't think you're going to have to pay that, whether you agree with it or not, and there may be people screaming at home saying he shouldn't get it, he shouldn't get it, he shouldn't get it. You're fine to feel that way. But he's going to get $6 million.
The interesting thing is how the language is written, right?
Yeah.
Because the spirit of why that's put in the contract, he absolutely shouldn't get the money.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reason that they gave him that clause is because the Yankees thought they were going to be capitalizing on marketing opportunities, ratings bumps. They thought Alex Rodriguez chasing home run milestones was going to mean a lot economically for them. Now it means nothing for them.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing that's going to be sold based on Alex Rodriguez getting his 660th home run, because it has no value in the history of the game anymore. So I don't think they should be having to pay him any money for these milestones.
Oh, you don't? They think they should get out of it.
I do think they should get out of it.
I can't wait to take you to court for that one.
See, that's the problem.
Approve that one, because I think most people feel the same way.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to hold up. When you take that thing into a courtroom and say, this is why we don't want to pay, and A-Rod's team says this is why you should pay, I have a feeling they're handing him a check.
If I'm going to just be thinking about it legally, I'm sure you're probably right. I think it's highly unlikely that they'll be able to get out of paying him, because the contract probably states the number he's reaching.
Right.
Not whether or not that number has value at the time he reaches it. I'm sure legally he's going to get his money. But there's something that feels off and wrong about that to me, because he doesn't deserve it, because the milestone means nothing anymore.
I get what you're saying. And for those of you expecting another player, a player who has had a change of heart to say, you know what, don't pay me the money, I don't deserve it, make sure you just throw that one out as well, because ain't nobody saying that.
No, nobody.
You may say, well, A-Rod's saying that because he's not a good guy. Nobody is saying that. Nobody in that situation is saying, you know what? I get it, Yankees. I get it, Team X. I get what you're saying. I shouldn't get that money. Don't pay me.
And
not happening.
Golic, he can also justify it this way. He can say, okay, you're right. Maybe my milestones don't mean a whole lot, and I don't think he needs to justify it to himself, but if he did, he could say, you know why people are still interested in this team? You know who the superstar is that still reverberates throughout this fan base in ratings? He could say it's him. If he wants to, he is still the guy for that team. With Tanaka down and you're not quite sure if he's going to regain dominance, Alex Rodriguez is the draw for the current New York Yankees. So if he needed to justify it to himself, that could be a way that he does.
And you're right. He probably doesn't. Why would he? Why would he? Dudes, I signed a contract. Says a number, pay up. I mean, I know the Yankees will fight it, so again, I understand why they didn't put it in their milestone thing. I get it, because then they're acknowledging it, and you certainly hurt your cause when you acknowledge it and then say you don't want to pay it. But I don't think there's any doubt, no matter what your thought is out there, there's no doubt in my mind they're paying that money.
Mike and Mike.
What a finish to the NBA season we are set up for, and we have Amin Elhassan, our NBA front office insider, in studio with us to get us ready for the conclusion of the regular season, the start of the playoffs. Thanks for being with us, Amin.
Thanks for having me.
So, the first thing, I bet you'd love to take that coat and tie off, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know what? I've gotten used to the dog and pony show every time I'm here.
Yeah.
If I took it off, it would throw my rhythm off.
Oh, we don't want to do that.
No,
we do not want to do that.
So, I mean, yesterday Golic and I talked a lot about this, but whether or not the Thunder are better off getting the 8th spot or just missing the playoffs because of what it does for their draft position. What do you think?
I think, first of all, when you talk about an organization like the Oklahoma City Thunder, they are all about excellence, about achieving as much as they can. So to say that, oh, we'd rather miss the playoffs goes against their organizational decree, their culture, and go, you know, being a former athlete in that locker room, you don't want to mess up that culture. You got something strong going, even if in the short term it's probably not in your best interest. In the long term, it's better for that culture. The other thing is, we're talking about the difference between getting 14 and, 17, 18.
Yeah.
That middle range of picks is traditionally the least valuable because the guys there still have an expectation to be good, so you can't just draft a role player there. But at the same time, they're not good enough because all the good guys went in the top 10 probably. So
you look at the game coming up tomorrow. All of a sudden now you have a tie with the Pelicans, New Orleans winning the tiebreaker. They play San Antonio, who seems to be playing for something, because I would imagine he would tell. At this point of the season, usually Popovich is sending his guys to the spa, instead of to the arena. But they seem to be playing for something. And Oklahoma City is playing Minnesota. Could this be the surest bet of all time, that Oklahoma City beats Minnesota? I mean, I just can't see any. If Oklahoma City were to lose to this team that has 16 wins, well, they obviously wouldn't deserve to be in the playoffs anyway, but I can't see a sure bet of at least Oklahoma City taking care of their side of the equation.
That part, yeah. So last night we saw, first of all, Minnesota's in the running to get the worst record. So
Why not stay in that running?
Exactly.
Right.
Well, last night they played New Orleans, and there was stretches where they played Zach LaVine and Andrew Wiggins were the only 2 NBA players on the court. The other 3 guys, no offense to the other 3 guys, Lorenzo Brown and guys like that, and Arinze Onuaku, but these are not household names, suffice it to say. So Minnesota is going to make it as easy as possible for Oklahoma City to win because it's in everybody's vested interest. The problem is, if you're the Thunder, you don't control your destiny. You're still watching a scoreboard or turning on the TV and hoping, praying that the Spurs, even if they sit guys, still have that magic where they seem to don't miss a step. And that's why there was a reporter yesterday who asked Russell Westbrook, are you going to be a Spurs fan on Wednesday? And Westbrook kind of scoffed, I'm a Thunder fan, and he points his hat. But if you wanted to be that, you should have won 1 extra game earlier.
Right.
Because they lose the tiebreaker to New Orleans, and because of the situation there, they need New Orleans to lose. So he has to be a Spurs fan, whether he likes it or not.
Why are they so afraid to say it? Somebody else saw it, and I forgot who it was on their team said he was, and I can't remember off the top of my head who said it. Yes, you're a Spurs fan. Well, why is it so hard to say? We understand you play for Oklahoma City and that and your allegiance is there, but you need San Antonio to win. You're a Spurs fan.
A few years ago in the NFL, do you remember this? The Cardinals, they needed the defense to give up a score so that they'd have a chance to win the game. And then the defensive guy said, no way, we're not doing that. Said, do you want to lose this game?
Yeah, right.
The rest of your teammates want you to do it, let alone another team. It's amazing.
It's just math. They don't go if the Pelicans win, period. Now, how incentivized do you think the Spurs are, I mean, to get that 2 seed and to try and hold on to it and win this game against the Pelicans?
You know, I was talking to Drew right before we came on. The Spurs are so different. Pop is so different. I think they want to win, but the idea of would we rather lock up 2 and face the Mavericks for sure in the first round, or would I rather have my guys 1 extra day of rest and energize? I think he'd take the rest over trying to lock up the seed.
But they can go all the way down to 6 then, right?
Do you think the Spurs really care whether they start on home or on the road, if they're playing the Mavs, or if they're playing the Rockets in the first round? It doesn't matter to them. They know what they're about. And so I'm not saying that they don't want to win that game. I'm just saying that we don't know the priority order for Pop. Is it to lock up the seed, or is it to get his guys 1 extra day of rest?
You know, the interesting thing, too, Spurs have won 11 straight. Timberwolves have lost 11 straight. That doesn't bode well for the Pelicans necessarily going into those final matchups.
Both those games, too, the Pelicans game and Oklahoma City, they're at the same time.
Yeah.
So, you know, there will be, you know, a little bit of for New Orleans, they really don't have to scoreboard watch enough, so they're going to lose that game. Then they have to look up and see what OKC is doing. So, quickly over to, before we move on and talk about playoff teams and such, looking at what Minnesota is trying to do, and we've talked a lot about this, and Greeny is with a lot of people, just kind of livid at the system right now.
Right.
Does the system need to change when we talk about tanking and trying to get that top pick? Is there a way, and not only is there a way, but is there a way that the NBA would actually adopt that would be different from what we have now?
I think we definitely need system change. This is disgraceful. I think that there are fans who are upset in New York that the Knicks won. That should never, ever, ever be the case in professional sports, where fans are upset.
We saw it in hockey. A team, I think it was Buffalo. I forgot what it was. It was Buffalo, where their own fans are cheering when the other team scores a game winner in overtime.
I mean, I get thinking big picture, but the reason why fans are cheering for things like that is because we have a system that rewards that. And I'm a management major. I got my MBA. One of the big things in management is you get what you incent. If the incentive is to do this, that's what you're going to get. We've incentivized teams to lose. We've incentivized fans to root for losing. We need to remove that incentive, and we got to basically switch that up. So whether that's equalizing the lottery odds over the worst 10 teams as opposed to just, having a declining scale, whether it's something where the bottom 3 teams have as good a chance of jumping in the top 3 as the top 3 teams, something needs to change where teams have an incentive. If you ask me, we need to get rid of the lottery altogether. We need to get rid of the draft altogether and change it to a system where teams have cap exceptions, where you can sign players and you have to convince players to come play for you. But that's a really radical rule.
That really is.
Slowly on a Tuesday morning, draft, just dropped them right in there.
That on.
You know what? Every opportunity I have to get that idea out there, I do. I really think part of the reason why we have such a great affinity for having draft picks and lottery and all that is because it disguises front offices that aren't good. So if you lose, you say, I meant to lose. We're trying to get a top pick. If you remove that altogether and say, you have to convince these kids coming out of college to come play for you. Now it's different. Now it's harder. Now you have to talk about your track record. Well, why should I sign with you? You guys have been awful. In Minnesota's case, you've been awful for greater than a decade. The last time the Minnesota Timberwolves made the playoffs, Kevin Garnett was MVP of the league. Think about that. The last time they made the playoffs, Latrell Sprewell could afford to feed his family. That's a long time ago.
But it means nicely done. And we're talking with NBA front office insider Amin Elhassan joining us in studio with his Subway Fresh Take, the new Subway. Simple 6 menu, 6 subs, 6 meals, $6 every day. Subway, eat fresh. I guess, though, Amin, my problem would be if you did adopt your system, which obviously this is a drastic, radical change, right? If you got rid of the draft altogether. My issue would be, well, you're convincing players to come play for your team, and how are you convincing them? Because if you're convincing them just with dollars, well, now all of a sudden you have a situation where rookies are coming in right away and making what? I mean, $18 million? Because there's going to have to be a big separation. If it's the difference between 4 a year and 3 a year to go play in Minnesota versus going and playing in Cleveland, I don't know that you're winning that battle if you're the Timberwolves.
Right, so my system would be, it would take the current rookie first salaries that we have from the rookie scale.
Right.
So the worst team would still have the biggest exception. You still say, I can offer you more money than anybody else.
Oh, okay.
But the difference is, so Cleveland is going to be one of the handful of best teams in the league, right? So the difference between the top and where the Cavs are now, the money's big enough. Remember, these kids have never made money in their life. So you tell them the difference between $500,000, for instance, and $4 million. Doesn't matter how good that team is. I'm taking the $4 million. What if I blow my knee out tomorrow? I have to take the money. But when you talk about the difference, let's say a team like Phoenix is a lottery team versus the Kings. There's a big difference there. So as far as talent, as far as winning, and yet the money difference probably isn't that big when you look at where they're going to be picking. If I'm a kid, I might say, you know what? The Suns have put together a team that's at least somewhat competitive the last few years. I'd rather go there than go to a team like Sacramento that doesn't know what they're doing, where their owner is doing something different every single day. Why should we force one of the best kids in college to go play for that organization when their owner every day wakes up with a different idea? Like, let's play 4-on-5. Let's fire our coach. Let's fire another coach. Let's hire this coach. Let's fire our GM. I mean, why would anyone want to play there? We force them to do it because they're bad and because they have a high pick. But why do we give them that incentive to continue to be bad?
I love the incentive part. I love you pulled up your business degree to talk about the incentive part of it as well. It is true. We do incentivize now to lose and be the worst. So that will hold for another day as the draft is coming about. Before we get back on the court, MVP. We just had, it was from the Akron Beacon Journal. I'm sorry, I don't have his name right in front of me right now.
Jason Lloyd, I think?
Yes. He voted for LeBron and gave his reason for voting for LeBron. And my answer to that was basically everybody who has a vote has their criteria of what an MVP is. So under your criteria, what is your MVP and who is your MVP?
Well, because as Ryan knows, I do this thing where I hate hard on people on Twitter. I'm going to hate hard a little on Jason Lloyd because I think, you know, I get his reasoning, but at the same time, I don't know how you can give the MVP award to someone who took 2 months off, pretty much. If we're being honest, if we're not pulling punches. November and December, LeBron was jogging up court. He was pointing fingers. He was basically doing a lot of un-MVP-like activity. Whereas guys like Harden, Curry, Davis, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, at least we know that they've had 2 feet in from day one until today. So that's why I don't think LeBron should win MVP. I don't know how you reward that. I'm not saying he's not. He's the best player in the country, in the planet, in the league, whatever. It's like J.R. Smith said, they could give it to him every year if they wanted to. But I think those 2 months are a blight on his record. Now, asking me who I think should win, to me it's Steph Curry. And it goes beyond the best player on the best team. Kevin Pelton for ESPN.com wrote a great article where he said, it's not that he's the best player on the best team. It's not like if the Hawks had the best record, Jeff Teague should win MVP. It's that they're the best team because of him. If you look at the on-off plus-minus, basically what happens to the team when he leaves versus when he's on the court, he is far and away better than everyone else in that race. About twice as good as James Harden. So the best analogy would be James Harden takes a bad team and makes them good. Steph Curry takes an okay team, and he makes them one of the greatest teams of the last 25 years.
ESPN NBA front office insider Amin Elhassan in studio. Here, Ryan Ruocco in for Greeny alongside Golic on Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Now, I mean, how much of a difference do you think it makes for Golden State, whether they play New Orleans or Oklahoma City in the first round? And I don't just mean as far as winning the series, because I think we all think, no, they'd win the series, but as far as how taxing it would be on them in the first round, depending on their opponent.
Here's the thing. New Orleans has a great player in Anthony Davis. Oklahoma City has a great player in Russell Westbrook. The difference is Oklahoma City's great player has the ball in his hands. So the lights are always on. Steph Curry always has to guard that guy. Everyone has to be on full alert. Anthony Davis, for all of his greatness, still relies on Tyreek Evans and Drew Holiday and those guys to get him the ball. With a defense like Golden State, they can stop that. They can say, you know what, you're not going to get the ball to him. We're going to deny you. We're going to trap the ball handler. We're basically going to make it so hard that you're never going to get a good shot. If he does get the ball, there'll be short clock situations. Oklahoma City's harder to do that because the guy has the ball all the time. And add in New Orleans, it's their first time at the rodeo. Bright lights, new situation. Oklahoma City, obviously these guys, most of them are playoff tested. So even though Oklahoma City's banged up and conventional wisdom will say, well, let me take the team that's having some injury issues, I think I'd rather play the team that has never been there before rather than Oklahoma City.
Going over to the East, we are where I think a lot of us thought we were going to be. If you agree or disagree, let me know. But with the way Cleveland started, as you mentioned, first couple months, finger pointing, they were trying to get gel. We thought, oh my God, this is a horrible experience, and all of a sudden it's a fantastic experience. I think most people think now they're the team to beat in the East. If you agree with that and think they're the team to beat in the East, who now to you is their biggest challenge?
Well, I do agree with that, and I'll tell you why. I think people in Atlanta right now are, what do you mean?
Oh, yeah.
The Thabo Sefolosha injury is huge, and I don't think people recognize that. I know they had a good record while he was out earlier this year, but if you look at how basically their margin of victory while he was out, they were beating teams by about 1 point per 100 possessions. That's really bad. That means that basically it was a coin flip in a lot of those situations, and you may end up with 15-5 as your record, but could have easily been 10-10 or 9-11 or whatever. So Atlanta is greatly decreased. I think they would have been the biggest threat. Chicago, because again, you're talking about guys that have been there before, have been through the wars, and Derrick Rose coming back. It's a different type of team, though. They don't rely on Derrick Rose to get their offense anymore. Now, they've got Pau Gasol, they've got Mirotic, they've got even a guy like Aaron Brooks coming scoring points, Jimmy Butler. Their offense is diversified, and Derrick Rose is like the gravy on the steak now. Every once in a while, come in, like last night, have this great burst of speed, get to the hole, lay it up, or find guys. That's a whole different kind of proposition. Joakim Noah needs to be healthy. Their defense really needs to cinch up. They need to basically revert to their old defensive ways from the last few years. But Chicago is probably their biggest threat, but again, it's semantics. I think the Cavs will be in the finals.
When it comes to Chicago, I mean, we hear over and over again how, Tom Thibodeau has issues with the front office. He won't be back. They're going to get rid of him. What in the playoffs could change that?
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think even if they win a title, which I don't think they will, but even if they did, I think the relationship just seems to be so fractured. And it's sad because it's been a great relationship as far as on-court production, but these two sides seem so far apart from, Tibbs feeling that they are meddling, and coaches hate meddling. They hate front offices that are always sticking their nose in there. But at the same time, front office has a point. You're kind of running some of these guys into the ground, and we need to be the check and balance so that you don't do that. And so it seems like they're just on such different pages. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope they stay because I think it's been a fruitful relationship, but it doesn't look like that.
Let's stay in the front office for a couple of teams that we've certainly seen greatness out, and now we're seeing the other end of it, the Knicks and the Lakers. So let's look at the front office, and we keep talking about who will go to L.A., and eventually you talk about who will go to L.A., especially when you're talking about max deals because it can be the same amount of money.
Right.
So you look to the organization. Is Jim Buss, I guess I would put it this way, how much of a liability now is Jim Buss considered?
Ah, man, here's the thing. Players in this kind of order, this is what they care about. Number one, who can pay me more? That's understandable. I'm not saying that as an accusation. You got a small window of time to make as much money as you can before you retire for 20, 30, 40 years of your life. You got to do it. You got to go for the money. Number two is, are we going to win? They want to be winners. People don't want to go to losing teams. That's why when the Knicks had cap space in 2010, no one would take it because nobody wants to go for an organization that doesn't look like they know what they're doing. Very close to 2 is 2A, which is we're going to win playing my way. You're going to use me in the way that I like to be used. So a great example of this is look at Kevin Love. I'm not saying he's leaving, but I'm just saying he's probably not happy, even though they're winning more than he's ever won before. And that doesn't make him a loser, but it just means players are, especially great players, there's some genius there, and they want to know that their genius is appreciated. So if you talk about the Lakers,
sounded like Kanye there a little bit.
I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about them. But if you look at the Lakers, one of the bigger reasons beyond they haven't been very good is Kobe Bryant not relinquishing control. So telling guys like Dwight Howard, hey, you're going to come in here and screen for me and rebound for me and defend. Like, well, hold on now. What about me? I'm a great player too. So that has scared a lot of people away. Now it seems like Kobe, with this last injury, the way he was talking, he's starting to figure it out. Oh, I have to be a complementary piece. But is the damage already done? Because Jim Buss has made all these weird and wacky decisions. As a free agent, do I say, do they know what they're doing? Are we going to be winning anytime soon, especially in the tough Western Conference? All that works against them.
So and then come to the East Coast, and the Knicks where Dolan is considered a liability.
He sure is.
Can Phil Jackson make people overcome that by being in management and not on the bench?
That was a thought when they hired him. But over the course of the last year, he's had so many weird press conferences and town hall meetings with season ticket holders where 1 minute say, hey, we're going to make the playoffs. And then they're the worst team in the league pretty much. And say, well, we're going to go for the draft. And then he says, well, we'll probably trade that pick.
Well, how about we need a Tyson Chandler type center?
Oh,
you traded Tyson Chandler for nothing.
All of this screams my first time at the rodeo. So, again, as a free agent, do I want to wait for Phil Jackson to figure out how to do this, how to be a general manager? Or do I want to go to any number of teams that are also going to have cap space that look like they know what they're doing? The Boston Celtics have cap space. If I'm a high-level free agent and they're in the playoffs and they have a need for a star-type player, it's not like they're saying, well, this is Jared Sullinger's team and you're going to come help him. No, they want a star to come in and lead these guys. So, and that's just one example. There are a bunch of teams that have cap space and then wait a year. A lot of teams are going to have cap space.
Right, 2 years, right?
Yeah. Why would you lock yourself in, again, to two organizations that have shown in their recent history they don't know what they're doing?
I mean, before we let you run, and we appreciate all this time, I could talk to you all day about this. We get ready for the start of the playoffs. San Antonio and Golden State. If you had to pick one to come out of the West right now, of those two, who do you like more?
I take Golden State, but it's not like by a landslide. Yeah. Obviously, San Antonio is a great team, but Golden State, when you look at what they're doing, number one in offense and defense, first team to do that since the 96 Bulls. If they win 67 wins, they need one more to get to 67. 9 teams have done that in NBA history. 7 of them win the championship. And then they're outscoring teams by 10-plus points per game. It's happened 7 times in NBA history. 6 of them win the championship, and the 7th lost to another team on that list. This is a special team.
How many teams in the West could win the West? How deep would it go?
I would say 2.5.
Who's the half?
The half will it changes every day. Today it's the Clippers.
Okay, all right.
2.5.
Chris Paul playing. You mentioned him as an MVP candidate before. He really the basketball he's playing has been very.
I'm sorry. Every time I think of Chris Paul, I just think of Shaq at Bieber's roast, roasting Chris Paul, who was in the audience.
That was tremendous. That was. Amin, thank you so much.
Thank
you for the time. That's Amin Elhassan, our NBA front office insider.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNRadio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike. ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Hey, Mike Golic here, and I certainly love to fish. And when my dad took me out fishing for the first time when I was 6 and I caught that bluegill, I was so proud. Such a great memory, an experience everybody should have. Whether it's the first of the day or first of a lifetime, TakeMeFishing.org wants you to get out and make your first catch. And if you show them using hashtag #FirstCatchSweeps, you can win an Evinrude E-Tech G2 powered Ranger bass boat. Learn more at TakeMeFishing.org.
No purchase necessary. 48 U.S. and D.C. 18 and older. Ends 5/25/15. Void in Alaska, Hawaii, and where prohibited. See site for rules.
Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals.
That one is gone.
The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.